Yay, it's working. I am so sorry, y'all, that we are a little bit late. I don't think it's the internet. I think it's actually been Facebook. You'll have to tell me if any of you going live have had an issue. It has just been doing a weird thing over here and not letting me connect. So hopefully this will not be one of our live streams where it cuts off halfway through. If it does, I will monitor this and I'll just hop back on to pick up where we left off. I know sometimes that happens and I have no idea what causes that, what doesn't. But we're just gonna jump in and hope that was just a temporary thing and that everything is working out. But I'm so happy to hang with you all. It is a beautiful day here in the city. Got a great conversation for you. I think this is one of those conversations that I don't know, I've probably talked about it in different ways before, but I have a really different lens. I just had a masterclass last week. Thank you to so many of you who joined live Words That Sell. And it was, I think, on almost every metric, our best performing in terms of conversions into clients. It's a little tougher to identify because I only had one spot available and that filled. So that's just a little trickier, but in terms of sign up rate, in terms of conversion rate at the landing page, in terms of show up rate, in terms of consults booked on the back end, that sort of thing. And so I thought I would dive into that today and give a little bit of a breakdown on that, because what I think is interesting is when I review why that happened, there are two reasons that I think are seemingly really counterintuitive, but actually make complete sense when we explain them as to why those metrics are so high. And really it's about how doing less and also changing one thing helped me get those results. And the reason I titled this How Doing Less and Finally Changing One Thing Helped Me Cross 1.7 million and run my best performing masterclass yet is what we're diving in today. These two counterintuitive, it's such, I don't know why it's so hard for me to say, these two counterintuitive pieces really are what has supported me so much to continue to stay fully booked with 20 to 25 one-on-one clients. We crossed 1.7 million. I think it's been about 6.5 years, a little bit earlier. I don't know if it was last month, this month. But in terms of what we're talking about today, I've really just seen how it supported those results. And it's a big part of what has supported me. We've been talking so much in the online space about how things have changed. And I think a lot of businesses really struggled the last year and a half. And I think what we're talking about today is really what has supported me so much in continuing to have success and make money and stay fully booked. And it's not, not by accident. So we're gonna dive into all of that today. This is like such a squirrel moment. I went out of town this weekend. I went upstate with my stepson. He came with me. I went to go see my family for my brother's birthday. And I have really long natural nails, but I was doing a lot of helping around in the country, and I broke a couple of them, so I did the thing you're not supposed to do and chipped off all my nail polish and chopped them. But I feel so weird. Or anybody who has long nails, I feel very weird. So I'm distracted by myself. So I'm just calling that out because y'all need to know why that's happening. So let's dive into this. I want to dive into what exactly this counterintuitive thing is, and then I want to give nuance on both, because I think this is one of those things. I know I'm teasing this out a little bit, but I want you to hang with me. I know as I share this, it's one of those things I think oh yeah, that's really obvious, but I think both of these are things that we need to have play together. And what I see for so many of my clients is the pendulum can really swing where we pick one or the other, and we really need both. And I think it's confusing because they sound like complete opposites, but they really live together. And that's essentially, yes, doing less better, but really picking and sticking with your strategy while also being really open and adaptable and willing to change and to essentially pivot. And I'm going to explain both and how those showed up for, I'm going to use my masterclass as the example, but really this is what's also supported me to really thrive in the last year and a half when, I think there's just, let's just call it how it is. I think it's just been different in the online space. I don't want to say more challenging. I think just different in terms of, I think for a lot of businesses it has been challenging, and we've seen just a lot of people close doors and things like that. So what I saw with this, and so I'm just going to use the masterclass because I think it just happened, and I think it's really helpful to understand that. So again, with this past masterclass, I've been running masterclasses, I think since I started this Facebook group. 5 years, 6 years, for a really long time. I've been having masterclasses. When I started this Facebook group, I ran a masterclass every single month as a way to grow the group, because I used to run them in the group, and as a way to obviously build and trust, and to book clients. And then that's shifted over the years, and about, I think last year I dropped them to about 4 times per year, and now we're stretching them out a little bit. And the reason I'm sharing this is I want you to understand that I just had my best performing masterclass on kind of every metric, even down to like we ran some ads on the back end. So again, landing page conversion. I've had other landing pages convert at above 66%, but not with this much traffic. We had far more traffic. We had the most signups ever. We had, I think, the highest show up, or one of the highest show up rates. I started running years of ads about a year and a half ago, and this is definitely our lowest cost per lead. And I have already a stupid low cost per lead. And again, the conversions on the back end, open rate, all of those things. So just to give context there. And so in some ways, this was all the result of picking and sticking with a strategy, right? I didn't reinvent the wheel. I've been doing the same strategy with masterclasses. I have done less of them. So I'm literally doing less but better is my intention there. The masterclass that I just ran, and let me know as I'm going through this if you have questions, but I really want to share the nuance, particularly about the changes. The masterclass I ran is one that I've run every year for 4 years. I think 4 years. So I ran Words That Sell. I update it and refine it every year, but that is such a great example of part of the reason that performed better. Oh, that was the other metric. We also just had it was the most concise class I think I've ever taught. And we also had retention in terms of people staying on through to the end and through to the pitch. And then the watch rate on the replay as well. That was the other metric I wanted to share, which are just all metrics I'm looking at if you're launching, if you're running these things. These are all metrics aside from obviously sales and conversions, but that's just tougher for me because I didn't have a lot to sell on the back end. But these are all things I'm looking at with clients to see, how are things performing? Because it's one thing for us to run a conversion event. It's another thing to actually get people to show up. It's another thing to actually get people to open our emails, to attend, to stay on till the pitch, right? If people are dropping off at a couple minutes in, we need to adjust something there. And anyway, and it was also one of my highest cash months of the year so far. Not as high as my record-breaking cash month, but pretty high still. And I think it's just interesting to know I didn't launch anything new. I didn't have a new offer. I didn't have a new strategy. I literally used the same masterclass I've used before. So in many ways, I didn't change anything. And because of that, and because I'm doing these less often, it's really allowed me to intentionally do less better. And so with that, I've been able to use time where what I'm not doing, and I think this is where things get really confusing, is we hear pick and stick with a strategy. We hear do less better. And I think it, in our minds, means nothing can ever change. We just keep doing the same thing over and over again, which is like the definition of insanity. I think sometimes we think it means perfection, but I think we sometimes also think it means just like don't touch anything. And really the way I think of do less better is literally what it sounds like. I am doing less in terms of I'm not running as many masterclasses as I used to. I'm not running them as frequently. I'm not even running a new master or creating something new all of the time, which allows me to make it better. And so with that, one of the things I really focus on, and I've always focused on in business, but particularly if we're looking at what helped me to make 1.7 million or to cross that mark in my business with an all one-on-one model. Yes, again, I haven't changed my offer. I still offer only one-on-one. It's not like I opened up a bunch of extra spots. It's not like I raised my rates. It's not like I changed my strategy. I'm doing the same thing, but I'm able to get better and better at what I do. So with my whole strategy, with coaching itself, I think I've always been a great coach. My first client scaled to $1 million, from 10K months to $1 million in my first year of business. So I think I'm an excellent business coach, but I've also been now on 5,000 plus one-on-one sessions. I am a far better coach with far more experience today than I was 9 years ago. And I think I was still great then. My master classes, I think, were still valuable. 6 years ago, Words That Sell, I think, was still, it's my 3-part messaging framework, and I don't really think I've seen anyone teach, I don't know that I've seen anyone teach messaging this way. I think it was a great concept when I created it, studying my clients and my business however many years ago. But because I'm not doing a lot of new things, because I've stuck with my strategy, because I've stuck with my coaching and my offer, because I have stuck with this masterclass, I'm able to literally then refine things. So with coaching, for example, I can just become a better and better coach, especially because I have clients who stick with me and work together with me for 4 or 5 plus years, right? I also get better at knowing them, their business, their strategy, what's going on. So I can do less better with them in terms of we can literally get bigger results in less time the longer we work together because of that shorthand. It's the same with something like a strategy, like a masterclass. And so with this, one of the things I focus on, I really truly think this is one of the reasons I've been able to sustain and even scale during a time when there's a a trust recession, a shaky economy. The industry has shifted so much. Other people have been closing their doors. I think one of it is what we're talking about here. And just, I mean, this is like a side note, but I think it's also just when you don't change things up a lot, you just really get known for something. I have people reach out to me who've been in my world for years, or have a referral because I'm one of the few people who do what I do at the level of client results, experience, and everything that I do. And because I've been doing this so long, people who know me for a couple of years ago will come through. So I think, just to give context outside of this conversation, I think there's a lot of other reasons for that. But what this also allows me to do is to really study my business and to study the data and to look at not how do I change everything, but how can I do less better by looking at where are the opportunities to refine things. And I want to be so mindful because my coach actually had a great conversation about in her live, in her Facebook group, about why she doesn't optimize everything. And I fully subscribe to that. This is why I have not touched my website in, I don't know, 3-4 years. My website needs some work, y'all. Do not go look at my website for ways to do a website. It hasn't been touched in forever, and it is definitely not optimized. But when I look at something like my masterclasses or my strategy or my coaching, those are things that actually matter. And I am looking at the data, and I am looking at where does it make sense to shift. And so with masterclasses in particular, since we're using that as the lens, I think it's such a great example here of doing less better. Because I'm doing them less frequently, I was able to look at, well, these are performing well for me. And my business is in a place where, this is going to sound so bratty, but if it doesn't convert, it's not that it doesn't matter. I just know that with the way my business is set up and the relationships I've built, if I have a spot open up, I know that it will fill pretty easily. So I do need the masterclass. I don't need the masterclass. I'm like trying to be mindful of how I describe that because I don't want to sound like a brat around that. But there's a lot less pressure, I would say, around needing it to convert. But I can also step back and look at, I still want this to perform well. Like if I'm going to ask someone to come into my world, like it still matters how maybe this is a better way to say it. It still matters how the masterclass performs, and that I might not need that to convert into a gazillion clients. But if this is the entry point for a lot of people into my world, and I know I'm playing the long game in my business where I will have spots open up. I'm definitely going to open up an intensive next month, that sort of thing. I'm building long-term relationships with you, with other people. I really want to make sure if I'm asking someone to commit and spend time with me on a live stream, on a masterclass, that I'm giving them value for their time, that I'm respecting their time, that I'm demonstrating my work, what it's like to be in my world the best I'm able to, because holistically, that is going to support my entire customer journey, my entire business long term, because I might not need a client today, but I'm playing the long game here. I plan to stay in business for a long time. This is what's helped me to not just, cross the $1 million mark, but to cross the $1.7 million mark and to continue to stay fully booked with the number of clients I have, because I know if I continue to show up and market and build relationships and be of service and to give things that are quality and they're performing well, right, that brings people into my world and has them want to continue to consume my content and continue to hang out and continue to learn from me and to build that relationship until, I have a spot open up or someone's ready to work with me. Hopefully that makes sense and lands the plane there, because I think sometimes when we're full or when we're like between launches, for example, I have this conversation with clients so often when they're between launches. They're like, what is it? Summer abs are made in the winter. Launch results are made in the winter in terms of between pre-season, right? It's what you do between launches that really creates launch results. We want to be thinking about those things. Anyway, all of that is to say, because I'm doing less better and really thinking about that, I can afford to look at my metrics and afford to look at, I'm not going to overhaul my entire strategy. I'm not going to make big changes. I'm not going to optimize things that don't need to be optimized. I, for example, know that my website is fine and it's not hurting things. There's just, at this point, unless I feel like updating because I want to make it pretty, there's just not a big reason to spend a lot of time, money, and energy there. But I do know my masterclasses convert. I know they are a thing that brings me really great fit clients, and I know they're an entry point and a nurture point for a lot of people in my audience. That actually does matter quite a bit to me in terms of, in a way that, just for example, the website doesn't affect things as much. And so that does matter to me. And so I have just been studying my classes over time. And so one of the things I noticed, and so I guess with that, right, that allows me to have the intentional repetition and refinement based on what does work. and to not mess with that, right? That saves me time. That lets me to do less better, right? Words that sell was not a new concept. I didn't have to spend a lot of time coming up with the class concept, coming up with the idea. I made some changes based on what I've seen working right now. I always update the class. But what that allowed me to do is really look at, great, so my last couple of master classes worked really well. They've always converted, highly all the things we're talking about, but is there an opportunity there? And one of the things I really noticed, and I think this is just helpful overall, whether you run master classes or whatever kind of conversion event you run. Or if you're just looking at your marketing overall, this is something I've been talking about with almost every client, whether they're running a conversion event or posting something on Instagram or in a Facebook group. Attention spans are so much shorter than they used to be. I think it's not just that we are inundated with noise and that it's loud online. It is just, I mean, I think it is that, but I just think our attention spans are so short. I have to look at that myself. And I know, I mean, look, these live streams, I'm trying to make them a little bit more concise, but I know even with my content on Instagram, in terms of doing less better, in many ways I used to pump out, I would say, so much more content. We repurposed a ton. I just put out a lot, and we're doing less better there in terms of creating a lot more new content, but posting less frequently. And I would say one of the number one things I've really been focused on with my content, even, with a reel, is how can I be more concise? Because I know people's attention span is so short. And I also know that in terms of good writing, I think being concise, being able to say what you need to say in as few words as possible is what's going to land the plane if I want something to be valuable. But I also know I tend to be long-winded. I want people to understand me. I want to give a lot of value. I want people to really understand the nuance. I want to help people. And so for even my captions, I mean, even with me trying to be concise, I'm still pretty much on the long side. But that's something I've really focused on. I've seen such an increase in terms of reach, in terms of engagement, in terms of people saving, sharing. And so similarly, when I was looking at my master classes, I was just noticing they were really long. We ran the fully booked method, we ran that last year, and I think that ended up running 2.5 hours. A lot of times my masterclass, the material is about 90 minutes, then I'll give a brief, because I really have much to sell, so I'll briefly pitch my one-on-one, and then we'll do Q&A, so they can go anywhere between 90 minutes up to 2 hours. And there are people who are still doing that in our space, and I don't know how well it's working for them. Maybe it is in terms of what they're selling. I think they're podcasts that are 2.5 hours. I think in some way long form content can be really valuable. And I think there's something we want to understand with conversions, and this is what I talk with clients about quite a bit. There's a big difference in, are we using our content for nurture, or are we using our content for conversions? Of course, there's always like an interplay and a mix of both. But when I think of this live stream here, I want to hang out with you. I want to share this. This is more, though, a nurture content, so it's a little bit looser. It's a little bit more free-flowing. I'm just, not that, I don't want to connect with you if you want to work with me. Of course I do. And it's not that it isn't serving conversions and bringing in clients, but it is definitely more of a nurture and building that know, like, and trust and relationship over the long term and giving you value over the long term. So it is a little bit looser. And in that way, I think then sometimes going more into nuance, going more in depth, being a little bit longer, giving different detail can be really great for nurture. When it comes to conversion, it's not that we can't give value. It's not that we're like trying to hold things back, but there is a different strategy with creating content for a conversion base, which is what we're doing with a conversion event, right? That's why it's called a conversion event. It is not nurture content. It is not the same as our podcasts or our live streams. It is literally a form of conversion content. So it is a very different structure. I don't necessarily want to go into that all today because that's a whole different class than what we're talking about, because I want to land the plane on this concept of these two counterintuitive concepts. But let me know if that's something, maybe I taught this before, but if not, let me know. You can leave a comment or DM me if you want me to do a live stream more on the structure of a conversion event or conversion content and how that is different from kind of nurture content. But there is a very different structure. And one of the things I would say is this is not so much the structure of it. And you can go watch my masterclass replay. You can study the structure of that, because that converted well. But the point here is, one of the things that I would say is, if we're focusing on conversions over nurture, and again, it's not that a piece of content or marketing can't do both, but it is helpful. I tell clients this especially with Instagram, right? I do think it's really helpful for us to have one goal and to know what our goal is with anything we're doing, so that we're intentional, but particularly with a piece of marketing and with content. And so with something that is conversion based, if we know attention spans are really short, and generally that is a little bit more teaching based, it's just generally going to convert better the more concise it is. And I think look, stats are different for everyone everywhere, but kind of general rule of thumb is that you want to be pitching at around the 45 to 60 minute mark. I mean, even short, like sooner if you can be. And again, a little bit different in my business because I'm not trying to fill a huge group program or sell a bunch of courses. You know, I had one spot that I was selling in this masterclass. I have one spot open up from time to time. We open up maybe one intensive per month, depending on what's going on. Right now, that's what I'm planning on doing through at least the summer. So it is I feel like I can be a little bit looser, but it's also important to me that I'm testing things and seeing what works the best because I'm coaching clients who have very different models and who are launching big group programs or courses to see what works best there. And so for conversions, again, long-winded way of saying like concise is being better. And I am notoriously long-winded because I want to give you all the things. And so because I could do less better, this is where I think it's really interesting to see. These are like the two very counterintuitive things, right? Pick and stick with your strategy. Don't mess with that. Do less, and then do less better can feel different. And then what I also looked at is what are my metrics telling me? What is the data telling me? What is the industry telling me is something I could optimize here? One of the things I saw there is I could stand to be far shorter, far more concise. And I think with that, I have never used slides in a masterclass, literally ever in my business in 9.5 years. I'm a rebel at heart, y'all. Like there's a part of me that just like really can't stand doing things the way people in our industry do. And I will tell you that can serve you really well as a business owner. It has also bitten me in the ass because sometimes then I just insist on doing things differently and making things harder for myself. I think this was actually one of those cases and a good lesson for me. But really what I looked at there is, this is an opportunity to be more concise. I'm going to test slides as a way to help me be more concise. And the reason I actually want to give that context and nuance here as well is because I know people sometimes model what they're doing off of things that I do because they know that it works. And I don't want you to hear this or to see, oh my gosh, Kim used slides in her last masterclass. She said it performed really well. That means slides are the things. I need to do slides too. I need to do a masterclass just like Kim did. You don't have to my masterclasses have converted for 9+ years without slides. Slides are not the thing that made my masterclass better. Slides were a shift that helped me to make it more concise, to be able to teach better in a more concise way to really fit the goal of that class. And that was what I was working to refine. So I really want you to hear that. It is not that slides are what make a masterclass or a conversion event or challenge, whatever you're doing, convert. Truly, I have run masterclasses for, I don't even know how many I've run at this point, but for a very long time and never used them up into this last class. And I do think it is also true that attention spans are shorter, and finding a way to make our work concise and really have the goal of, is this nurture or is this conversion? If it's conversion, how do we make it more concise? How do we make our teaching more concise and in a specific way that is a little bit more problem awareness than it is the how-to teaching? And how do we reach the point of where we're going to pitch and present a little bit sooner is going to help with conversions. And so just again, give that nuance. I'm not saying everybody go run out and do slides, but I do think it forced me to make my teaching so much tighter and so much better. And I do think, not to pat myself on the back, but again, this is the same masterclass with small updates I have taught every year for however many years now. And I think that helped me to make it better. But I do think then looking at the data and what was needed and being willing to make a change and to do something different within the same strategy and to test something like those slides really helped me to deliver a better teaching vehicle. And I think it's one of the better teaching vehicles. I don't consider I think I'm decent at teaching. I think I'm a far, far, far better coach than I am a teacher. But I do think this helped me to be a better teacher. And so let me land the plane on this again, because what I think that made it, yes, more clear, more concise, more engaging. And that helped people to stay on longer and helped me to keep it tighter and helped me to get to the pitch sooner. And I think that helped with the retention and the overall conversion. But what I want you to hear here, and this is the bigger concept in terms of what's helped me make 1.7 million. Let me know if you have questions as I'm going through on this, and what helped me to have the better performing masterclass. It really was the combination of those two concepts. It is not only because I was willing to change something. It is not only because I looked at data and added slides. It's almost like, I think sometimes we hear things in the online space and we we hear the surface level thing and miss what is underneath it. I really want you to hear this. It is not because I did a 60-minute masterclass or that slides are the secret. That is not it at all. Please don't walk away from this live stream hearing that. That's not what I'm saying. What has helped me create those results? This is going into the what helped me cross 1.7 million with all one-on-one is the combination of really picking and sticking an offer, a strategy, and working that until it works and getting known for that and teaching my audience about that and building in the reps to get better and better and better and better and better at that one offer, at that one strategy. My strategy is not that different from many other people's. I have an easy time staying fully booked with one-on-one, again, because I have just gotten known for that. I have taught my audience about that. I have been preaching and talking about my one-on-one for 9+ years. Like, it would be crazy if I wasn't still fully booked because of that, right? I just keep doing the same fucking thing, and I put in the reps. And so again, I was a great coach and helped someone cross from 10K months to 100K months to $1 million year my first year in business. I know business, and I have just gotten better and better by putting in the reps after 5,000 sessions. And that allows me to do less better in terms of I can then streamline things because I'm doing fewer things to do them better and better. If I had 17 offers, they would all get dregs of me. And even if I had 17 offers over 9 years, right, they would all, instead of having one offer that's really, really great, I'd have 17 kind of okay offers because there's only one of me, and I can only put in so many reps and refine them so much. Right, so that's the big piece there, and the nuance there that I really saw with this masterclass, and that I really saw over the last year and a half in terms of what's helped our business, sustain 25K to 40K cash months, and to continue to make multi-six figures, pay myself that well, and to be really profitable, is the picking and sticking and getting known for one thing and doing less better and refining that, absolutely, and also being willing to look at the data and to see within that where are the opportunities to optimize, to refine, or to switch it up and to do something new. And it has been that combination. That's why I started focusing on Instagram and doing Reels about a year and a half ago. I noticed a shift in the industry. Also, this Facebook group was well-oiled, right? So we made a shift there. I changed the way I was doing content, but I didn't dramatically change my strategy. My holistic strategy it is literally the same thing. What I do today in business is literally the same thing I was doing 6.5 years ago in business when I got fully booked. I would say the only big difference is at one point had a podcast and I dropped that. At one point I posted in other Facebook groups. I brought on ads a year ago because, full transparency, ads are cheaper for us than paying team to post in other Facebook groups, but it's still the same strategy. Even ads, posting in other Facebook groups is basically free ads unless you're paying team. It is the same exact strategy in terms of putting what an ad does, which is getting on Facebook and letting people see your stuff in other audiences. I have all of the rest of my strategy. Everything is exactly, I cannot stress this enough. It is exactly the same. And within that, I have changed and iterated so much. I've been willing to keep things the same. And within that, I've been really willing to look at how is the industry changing? How is my business changing? How is my audience changing? How do I refine and adapt within the same strategy? My messaging has changed dramatically. The way in which I show up in that strategy and what we do has changed, right? When we're talking about this masterclass, it's not a huge dramatic shift, but I made changes within that. We also actually changed the type of, I always do a bonus. I usually do a playbook, which has been like journaling prompts in the past. I gave away a free template. This time, a highly converting landing page template, because my landing pages and my clients' landing pages convert at far above industry benchmark norms. And I thought that would just be really valuable for people. And so those are all just examples of, it is the same exact strategy. I still have people sign up for a masterclass. We still give that bonus, right? I'm still teaching literally the same class, but within that, looking at where are those places to adapt, to pivot, and change. And that's not to say that sometimes there isn't an opportunity to add on a brand new offer or to completely pivot your strategy because it's not aligned for you or whatever the reason is there. But I do really want you to see that nuance, because otherwise we hear conversations like this and you hear, oh, I started posting on Instagram and focusing there, and you miss the forest for the trees of, I'm still in this Facebook group. If you've noticed, I have not changed my strategy. I always post on Instagram. I always post in this Facebook group. It's not like I was like, Facebook groups don't work anymore because that's what everybody's saying online. This is still the number one source of traffic and clients for me. And I love you all in this group as well, even though Facebook groups are dead in air quotes, and that's what everybody says. And I was always posting on Instagram. It just means I stopped creating my content originally in the same repurposed way we used to and started creating reels and focusing on growing my Instagram a little bit more because this has been very well oiled, but I still show up the same way here. And so I really want you to hear that nuance, because that is the secret behind the results of sustainability in my business. But that's also how we keep having like new records, and that's how I had a best performing masterclass, even though I've had so many. And I think it's just helpful to see that's also the beauty of iterating something quite a bit and picking. Like I can't have a best performing masterclass and know what to change and how to iterate and optimize it if it's not something I've done so many times to be able to see, oh, it's already working. These are the things that work. These are the things that don't work. Here's an opportunity that would be really valuable. And to also know where the places it doesn't fucking matter and I don't need to touch something. That's what my coach was talking about this week, and I do think that's a helpful nuance here. Not everything needs, again, like my website. I am not touching my website anytime soon. It's not because it doesn't need to be optimized. It absolutely needs to be optimized. It does not mean that it is like doing really well. It just doesn't benefit me and my business and would just cost me a lot of time, energy, and money that I don't want to dedicate there. Whereas my masterclasses, that does make sense. So I really, let me know, y'all are very quiet today. Let me know if that concept is landing and that nuance. I really want to help land the plane on, because I think we just get so stuck on the way to get results is if I just figure out, should I be on Facebook or should I be on Instagram? If I just figure out, should I do reels or should I do a podcast or should I do live streams? If I could just figure out, should I do slides or should I not do slides, then I will have a lot of success. And what I want you to hear is that that's almost the confusing noise. It's how can I figure out what's the holistic strategy that works for me? What's the offer I'm really behind that works for me? How can I rinse and repeat? And not even rinse and repeat almost sounds like we're not iterating. How can I iterate and put in the reps to get better and better and refine those? How can I do less better? And then within that, how can I notice the opportunities that make sense to focus on, to optimize and improve? Because then making those changes, right? We can both pick and stick with something and also change and continue to evolve it. And that is, I think, what really creates the sustainability and the success for us. I really hope that makes sense. It's that idea of picking and sticking, getting better and better while evolving. All right, y'all. I really hope that landed for you. Just seeing here if there's anything else in my notes that I wanted to share. I think those are the kind of the highlights there. It's a very simple concept, but I think sometimes easier said than done. So I hope that is helpful for you as well when you're taking a look at your business and looking at, because I think these are questions I know my clients have all the time in terms of, should I change this up? Should I stick with this? Like, what do you think? And this is just what I'm always looking through the lens at with clients when I'm coaching them, is generally speaking, unless something's out of alignment or just really not working because their audience has told them that's something they don't want, it's almost a whole different conversation. I really think there's so much to picking and sticking and really getting known and optimizing and refining the delivery of one offer up till at least 6 figures or plus. And then from there, looking, and then within that, looking at how do we continue to evolve, up level, optimize our strategy? How do we do less but better? If we can marry those two together, I think that is what makes you unstoppable. That's what makes business a lot easier. I will say, for all of those results we're sharing, I also feel like I'm having some of the most spacious time in my business. And so I think I just want to model that as well in terms of all of this is also what makes things a lot easier. But it's also really hard and tough to find the things to refine and to optimize within that same strategy if we're constantly changing things and we're constantly doing something new every single month. If that's the case, or we're always adding on something new, doing something new, we don't ever have enough data. We don't ever have enough reps, right? We don't even have the baseline. I started weightlifting, taking this crazy alpha class, and it's like I can't put on more weight or like learn the more. We did this like, I don't even know what it's, I don't know the names of things yet, but we did this like really challenging like one-legged deadlift thing where your leg's on a platform, whatever. The concept, I don't know what the name of that is, but I can't do that if I don't first get my foundation and I don't do enough reps to build up the strength in my legs and my arms and my back. Once I do that, then I can optimize within it. But what we're not doing is suddenly getting a whole new workout. It's the same fucking workout. They're just giving like that slight little elevation or tweak to be able to get more out of it. So that's kind of the same concept here. I think that is the way to creating bigger results and scaling, but also doing it in a way where you feel so much more spacious. It's really tough to do less better, to feel so spacious when we're constantly adding on more and new. And I would just remember every new thing we do creates, yeah, essentially more work for us. And so it's that combination that I hope lands for you. All right. I think that concept makes sense. If you have questions, y'all are very quiet today. Leave them for me in the comments. As I mentioned, we did fill the spot that I opened up, but I am always booking consultations to meet with potential clients. I don't know for sure. I think we don't have a spot opening up until maybe August, but we might have, I'm still seeing renewals for next month. We might have a spot open up next month. And then I am continuing to open up intensives every month this summer. So either way, if you're interested in working with me, if you're looking for support to map out that holistic strategy, or you have a holistic strategy and you want support refining and seeing it, where does it make sense to optimize? Where does it make sense to not mess with things so that you can continue to scale, to make your own 10K to 100K months, to reach your own 6 and 7 figure results in a way that feels spacious, in a way that feels sustainable, in a way that allows you to also continue to evolve as our industry does, because I think it's only going to continue to evolve at a more rapid speed with just AI and just I think the amount of saturation we have. That is the work I love to do. I only offer one-on-one. It is my joy, my pleasure. So I will drop a link for a free coaching consultation. Please don't feel like, if anything, I would say book a consultation call sooner rather than later, because if I have a spot open up, you'll get first dibs on it. But we also always waitlist spots for when those open up. All right, y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next week. Bye, y'all.